Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, geeks, nerds, and ambassadors everywhere, and welcome to the Ambassadora Wing and another installment of Council of the Ones Babylon 5 review. And today we are going to be covering the episode Rumors, Bargains, and Lies. And with me, I've got my two fellow council members, Mountains of Elysium and Zodrider, and we have Lady Fiona Wolf with her own take on this episode, Waiting in the Wings. But glad that you all are here today. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you all enjoy the stream. As always, make sure you smash that like button, share this out with all of your friends, and make sure, if you are not subscribed, to subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single installment of the council. Gentlemen, good to have you. You both hope you have both having a good day, and
You sound tired, Mr. Ambassador.
not particularly. No, I'm good. Just been a busy morning, busy afternoon, but other than that, I'm doing fine. And I want to send a shout to chat to one of our regulars, Archer Colin. Colin, it is good to see you, bud. Thank you for being here tonight. Well, tonight for you, afternoon for me, and for Zod. But gentlemen, got another good episode to tie into. So I am going to queue up Miss Fiona's video, and we will give her a listen, and then we will go from there. So bear with me for just 1 second, if you would be ever so kind. And there's that, and that, and all right. Oh, it's a short one, only 6 minutes. Wow. She usually goes double digits. Well, that's okay too.
Okay,
All right.
so this is one of my favorite episodes in season 4. Season 4 has a lot of favorite episodes, but Sheridan gets to be very sneaky, and for once he gets to outsmart everybody. And of course, Ivanova, takes a sniff of his drink in the morning just to make sure it's like, okay, is he drunk or something? And he basically sets up a very elaborate ruse to get all of them to unite under the banner of paranoia of like, oh, if there's something as mighty as the Centauri need protection from the White Star Fleet, then what are they being protected from? An invisible enemy. Man, they're just playing right into Sheridan's hands. And the best part of the reaction is when he's heading off to, take the elevator down or up or whatever, and he goes, yes! It's like, finally, for once their sheer stubbornness. Because the whole idea he got, it was like when Ivanova was saying, yeah, the last time to get them all to really work together is when the Shadows and Vorlons were breathing down everybody's neck. And he's like, I just gotta create something that will mimic that feeling, because eventually it'll be the precursor to what the Interstellar Alliance is doing. So yeah, that's always fun. And then, of course, the other part of the episode, the biggest part, is with Delenn and Naroon and how the Mambari Civil War is going. Oh boy, the fact that Lanier goes full on, I rather protect the mindset she has for people, because she was like, oh yes, the warrior caste attacked Naroon because they thought he was going to surrender to her, and then the religious class tried to be, we're going to be martyrs and kind of be like, lost and adrift in the sea of hyperspace by poisoning the air and then passing out quietly and dying without any kind of recognition. Will be martyrs to the cause, which unfortunately, that's the problem with the one guy just passing by and just hearing Delenn saying the part where the religious caste can't win, but he missed the part where she said in the warrior caste can't win either. And, of course, this will reflect later with how everything closes up for the Mambari Civil War, which, if I remember from the commentaries, they basically said that since the worker caste was forgotten and everything, that's why they made the majority later. Ooh. But really, yeah, Lanier's right though with when it comes to Delenn. Delenn believes the best in people, regardless. I guess it's just because of her own background. She rather would want to believe the best in people, or that we have learned and things like that. is what I appreciate about the show because it's not full on nihilism. I know a lot more people will see it as more of a pessimistic view of the future, but if a show puts in enough stuff to where it's like, yes, not everything is horrible bad, that'll always get my vote of confidence. And oh man, but all the moving, yeah, all the maneuvering around and everything, where they're all just like, oh, we got to get the upper hand everywhere, and yet it's made of a good point later on. The worker caste is constantly rebuilding everything after people's holy wars or military operations. It's time for religion and war to be in the service of the worker or whatnot, or at least the people who genuinely rebuild. And I didn't really see it as much of a political statement. It's just more of a like how the Mambari society is set up. Of all of them, the worker caste, really just bore the brunt of everything whenever the warriors and religious caste decided to have like issues. Yeah. And but I do like the fact that this also sets up to what you see in the next episode with Naroon. He does have more of a religious mindset, even if he didn't quite realize it at the time. Because he underneath that gruff exterior is a guy that genuinely thinks and feels for his people. It was just being raised warrior caste. He was cut off from certain avenues for a while, and he eventually reconciles the fact of why they went to war with humanity or why they had to stop, because with this crucible of their own civil war, he finally kind of realizes it's like, oh man, you know what, Delenn's right, and that's the reason why he'll eventually say, listen to her, but that's more of the next episode anyway. This is kind of, it seems like every episode of season 4, like the one episode will set up stuff for that'll pay off in another 2 or 3 episodes down the line, because they basically had to set up things and resolve most of the stuff in season 4 because they didn't know if they'd get renewed. Oh man. But I just love the fact that also Sheridan has to tell Londo, like, no, I don't want you to confirm or deny anything. Straddle that line. And that whole entire plot just falls right into his hands to where he can be like, finally, the League of Non-Aligned Worlds is working together, even if it is out of suspicion. And I do also like the fact that he goes to Dr. Franklin, hey, Franklin, just to push their paranoia a little bit further, even though it would also make sense in the long run because of all the stuff that they had, with the Markav. It's like, yeah, we need extra, blood and everything from each of your races, just in case anything happens. And, it's not even just due to war. It could be due to any other kind of stuff that will pop up, like a pandemic or whatnot. You just never know. But that's always what I've enjoyed about the series. It does have timeless elements where you just don't point at something and say like, oh, that's an allusion to the Berlin Wall coming down. That sort of thing. So how you guys doing? Have a good day. And remember, be like Lanier. Sorta. Poor guy in the end. Oh, and PPS, I did like the fact that Naroon had that line towards Delenn, like, what can two of us do against a world gone mad? Plenty.
All right, well, gentlemen, a lot to unpack there. And before I do, just real quick to the chat, the Price is Right reviews. Price, it has been a while. Doing good. Good to see you this afternoon. And thanks for tuning in. So, all right, gentlemen, a lot there that Fiona throwing at us. So, where do y'all want to start?
I suppose maybe at the start where she mentioned Ivanova sniffing Sheridan's drink. He's acting really weird in the canteen.
Yeah,
and it was something in my own notes that Jeff Conaway was just trying not to die laughing. Yeah, he was just in hysterics laughing, and it was just a brilliant scene. But it was also like from how to set up the league to do what he wanted, knowing that if he tells them what they wanted, they're going to do the opposite regardless.
Yeah, it's a very good example of reverse psychology on a group scale rather than on an individual one. And that's kind of the thing that the first time I ever watched this episode, I'm like, I know what he's doing, and I dig it because it's reverse psychology. You want to get somebody to do something that they don't want to do. What do you use? Reverse psychology. And I think, honestly, him getting everybody in on it, including Londo, who is difficult at most to get to agree on anything, was really a masterstroke. And can we just say that this is our first true reference to Rebo and Zuti? Zoot.
Yes, there you go. And that is a big, long-lasting element as we move further into the series.
Yeah, because can we just say it? Penn and Teller were awesome as Rebo and Zuti. Zoot.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually that could be like a philosophical mantra or something. Why are you so will you quit being so stressed out? Just go Zooty, zoot. And the way okay, I'm just gonna say this. The way that when Sheridan leaves and he puts his arm underneath his leg and he goes Zooty, zoot. It shows that that Bruce Boxleitner has the capacity to do a bit of humor when he's given the right material to do it with. So, but yeah, and then of course you've got the issue of the Mambari Civil War, and well, those wacky Mambari always doing the opposite of what they should be doing. What else is new? So, gentlemen, your thoughts on either of those topics from the episode?
Well, I suppose Rebo and Zuti are like you mentioned, great going forward. And it's nice to have those little background things kind of peppered throughout the show that makes the world seem more real. Mm-hmm. And especially when we meet them then, they look, they feel like they have a place and it fleshes them out. What am I saying here? Which I suppose maybe if we concentrate on the Sheridan side of things, because the Mambari Civil War in Naroon, that's a big discussion in and of itself.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Well, on my it's I love the way Sheridan got Franklin, and he told Londo very little because I think he didn't want to tell Londo too much. But Londo took that ball and ran with it and really messed with the Drazi ambassador.
Yeah, he did. Well, and here's the thing. You've got the Precari, the Pakmara, the Drazi, and what's the one in the silver environmental suit?
The game.
They're all like, something's going on. If the Centauri are worried, perhaps we should be worried too. And the interesting thing is, they said it at the beginning, or Sheridan said at the beginning of the episode, these people will not work together unless they have a gun, either figurative or literal, pointed at their heads. So instead of beating ourselves over the head trying to figure out a way, we're just going to do an end around on them, pull a trick play, and get them to do exactly what we want them to do. And in this case, it's actually of benefit to everybody rather than being
which is very smart. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And what I loved is then he getting Marcus, and he's really messing with Marcus, so people don't know what's up with Sheridan, to go and shoot up some asteroids, not telling him why, telling Ivanova, tell them nothing happened there. And what is interesting, the Drazi's sensors are so good, they can pick up 3 white stars shooting an asteroid in a sector no one's watching. So that just probably points to how high the tech level is for the other races. And then saying that if the white stars are that fearful, what must this enemy be? It's really playing into the like with the name of the episode, rumors, bargains and lies, setting up the rumor.
Well, can we just say that Marcus flies an awful long way to play a game of asteroids and then come home?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, I mean, just to be clear, Asteroids is a classic ambassador.
Oh, Asteroids.
So,
Well, yeah, of course. I by no means am I bashing on Asteroids. Asteroids is a great game. I just wonder if it survived into the year 2261. So
yeah,
and I will. you have to wonder, did some of this retro stuff survive? And I will bring up. I will bring up Beer 31's comment here. Comedy team Rebo and Zuti. You don't like Rebo and Zuti? They're hysterical. I'm apparently mistook you for a human who had some taste and sensibility. Zuti. Zoot. Yeah, that whole exchange, it just goes to show that the Centauri humor and human humor is very, very different. I mean, them getting blinding, passed out, stupid drunk to them is hysterical, but two guys like Rebo and Zuti having a very simplistic take on humor isn't. It just. Oh, we lost Elysium. Okay. Probably had an issue with his internet, so. Anyway. Well, Zod, your thoughts on the Mambari Civil War? What the heck is going on here? Okay, and I am all by myself. All right, well, I'll give you all my thoughts on the Mambari Civil War until Zod and Elysium get back. Yeah, Archer Colin. Yeah, I have to admit, I did wonder how their sensors worked faster than light. Colin, that's a good question. Not sure. Anyway, you've got the worker cast, you've got the religious cast and the warrior cast at butting heads as they often do. Okay, here's Elysium. There you are.
My apologies. My internet just completely died there a minute ago.
That's okay. It happens. So, and there is Zod. All right. Should we do a sound check? Make sure everybody's up and running.
Hello.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. We'll go ahead and move along to the other. Unless is there more on the whole issue with the League of Non-Aligned Worlds and Sheridan and his plan and so on that y'all want to discuss?
No, I think it's good, and he probably covered most of it when I was knocked out.
Okay. So, all right. Well, then we will move along to the Mambari Civil War. So, gentlemen, your thoughts, either on what Fiona had to say or your own thoughts on that particular part of the episode.
Well, Fiona was sure excited, but she broke it all down in such a very easy to understand way. So it's hard to it's hard to follow up on those.
It's I liked how Neroon is playing the part of the warrior, even up to being pretty much of a dick to the religious class or religious caste, but in his heart, you can see that is like a mask. He's almost he's lying with the truth to his own cast, and it's only when he gets in to seclusion with Delenn that both of them drop the mask and they're just honest with each other, because both of them see a bigger picture, that it's not just about one cast winning or losing, it's about what's best for their people. And Naroon, I think, is maybe even more idealistic than Delenn in many ways.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. I mean, Naroon realizes that he has to take charge and do things in a different way, because if he doesn't, who's going to?
Well, that's the other. Oh, Kojay's here. Hey.
Sorry, gentlemen, got stuck in med lab. Thank you.
That's okay.
Pow, med lab.
Welcome back.
Hey.
Bud.
Were you behind that thing for the blood for those races, I wonder?
I tried. It didn't qualify. I don't know.
Well, Kojay, we were getting ready to discuss the whole Mambari Civil War issue, but if you wanted to double back to Sheridan's scheming against the League of Online Worlds, we can do that too. So,
carry on. I was actually curious on more of what Mountains was saying about Naroon.
Okay, well, Elysium, floor's yours, bud.
Well, like Fiona mentions, Naroon's heart is religious. He's almost the embodiment of Valen in many ways, because he does take those into consideration. When he met, in fact, I think he shows how he beats up Marcus in previous episode, and I think Sinclair is the only one to best him in a fight. And when he deals with Sinclair, he lets go a lot of the masks that he was carrying, and he opens up to Sinclair and realizes treating people as equals. Marcus opens him up more, and at this stage, I think he is like I mentioned, that Sinclair was the best representation of the Mambari. He's warrior, religious, and worker all in one. Naroon too, I see the same, working for the betterment of all rather than his own aggrandizement, which the supposed leader of the military caste or warrior caste does, is very self-serving.
Well, the whole issue is Naroon is playing Delenn, but at the same time, he's also, I think deep in his heart, he wants to believe that Delenn wants what's best for the Mambari people, and he's trying to be pragmatic about this, but he's also trying to play the part of the warrior to keep his own cast in line, because he knows that if the warrior cast goes rudderless or leaderless, it's going to get very ugly very quick for everybody else, because the whole issue is keeping the Mambari people in balance, because when they become unbalanced, things go sideways very, very quickly. I mean, can you say the Earth Mambari War? And I think for Naroon, he does see an opportunity to maybe bridge the gap between the religious caste and the warrior caste, considering all of the issues going on going on with the Mambari. But he also has this itch in the back of his mind that says do I really trust this woman who I believe is just trying to do what's best for her? Even though we know Delenn's motives are altruistic, not selfish. So, gentlemen, your thoughts on what I had to say.
Yeah, I agree. That's well put, both of you guys, eloquently. I like how this conflict is starting, or not how it's starting, because it's awful. But I see that Nerun is also like the embodiment of the conflict of the that's been building with the warrior cast, with like the whole Mambari War and just how things are going after the Shadow War. I feel like he's a representation of like that negative reaction to that side of everything coming out. So when he goes through his journey, we actually see through him how that conflict gets put to rest through that revelation he has later on, and it's going to change the tides for all Membar, for the better too, when with his journey, and we're seeing that as it happens. And it's kind of interesting that how there's this not only is it lies and bargains or in stuff, but it's also what they're bargaining with and for. There's like this theme of war. War is always a part of it, even with Sheridan doing his this little display of just preparation alone, just to speak to what the other races are concerned with more, which is war, protection, rather than unification. So just by showing that they're ready in case there's a war, all these other races like, oh dang, we got to team up with them. So there's another theme of bargains and lies and all these things, but it's all geared towards kind of like war.
Right, because we know they don't want to work together regardless. They just it's all one of those things where, if they don't have to work. And you made this point earlier, Ambassador, about literally having to put a gun to their head to get them to do what you need them to do, or to get them to agree. And I think that carries on for all these alien races, regardless, just throughout the course of these interactions and dealings that you see, just throughout the series as a whole. I mean, they're all essentially isolationists and only care about what's best for their particular species. They don't care about working together. They're not interested in doing anything, for the betterment of the galaxy or the betterment of everyone as a whole. It's just all specific too. So it's like the bargaining aspect of the title is, what can you do for me? What are you going to give me? Me. Mm-hmm. And then of course you have the lies and the manipulations and all of these things. And the fact that, Sheridan is so hip to that, and the reality of trying to get these beings to come together to some capacity. So it's yeah, I mean, well said.
Yeah, something just dawned on me. I want to kind of, if y'all will bear with me for a minute, I'd like to go down a bit of a rabbit hole.
Ooh.
All of these alien races have existed, obviously, for potentially hundreds or thousands of years. And they have always been, to one degree or another, at each other's throats, or just very dismissive of the other. I have to wonder about something that John said to Delenn a few episodes prior to this one. We're going to be dealing with the legacy of the shadows for a very long time. Is it possible that the reason why the alien races and the League of Non-Aligned Worlds and the major races like the Narn, the Centauri, and the Mambari, to a lesser degree, distrust each other so much is because of all the past wars between the Shadows and the Vorlons, and maybe perhaps a bit of manipulation on the part of either the Vorlons, the Shadows, or both. All of these groups, all these races have grown to distrust each other so much that they just refuse to work beside one another. I mean, if you think about it, the Shadow Wars have been going on for thousands of years ad nauseum until John Sheridan came along and gave his speech of "Get the hell out of our galaxy," the both of you. So is it distinct? Is it even remotely possible that this antagonistic and untrusting nature that exists amongst all of these races was something that was either deliberately or unintentionally engineered into all the races? And I guess another question would be: is the mistrust of the League of Non-Aligned Worlds amongst themselves and amongst all the other alien races kind of a allegory for how we mistrust one another? And
Yes, absolutely.
I will include this whole issue of mistrust amongst people of other. I don't want to don't take
It
this
could
as
be
me
anything, really. Actually,
don't take this as me trying to say this specifically, but even amongst other races.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
and I think that's right, because from the end of the Shadow War, we find out that a lot of their dealings with war have been through ideological seed planting and manipulation between other species against each other. And so only so many people know the fallout and the conclusion of the Shadow War. Everything else is rumors and whispers that everyone else hears. And that revelation will take a while to go through. So when they say we're going to be dealing with the Shadows for a while, I also think it's not just physical threats and enemies and allies. It's also the negative, destructive ideologies that they've implanted and kind of garden in other species. So they have to deal with that kind of stigmas that they have against each other, against other races and stuff, just like our own history in a way.
I think there's been a lot of manipulation by both Vorlon and Shadow of the situation, and in many ways the conflicts benefit them. So yeah, I do think even when the instigators are gone, that legacy will remain. And so yeah, I think a lot of what's happened, a lot of perhaps the galaxy would have come together much sooner had it not been for the Vorlons and Shadows being shepherds, shall we say.
Yeah, it's kind of like a lot of races where even if they know it's a lie or not, they've been accustomed to their stigmas, their prejudices, and their negative ideologies so much that that's all they know. It's probably harder to do the switch without a dramatic intervention, but yeah, it would take a while.
Well, and if you even think about it, the theme of conflict has been a constant throughout human history. And oftentimes, conflict is the vehicle by which change does take place, even if it is slow. I mean, I will be somewhat of a contrarian and more of an optimist in terms of, and I'm going to be jumping over to another franchise here, in the pilot for Star Trek Next Generation, when Picard and Q are having their dialogue there on the bridge, and Q's only showing the nasty, evil, well, quote unquote, evil side of humanity. And all he's saying is, you all are just a primitive child race who are incapable of changing, and who are just barbarians who just want to wage war and conflict. And Picard is saying, yes, this is partially true, but we also made advancements because of the conflicts we have fought throughout our existence. And I would say that I would say especially in season 4, even though it is very truncated, we see that the conflict within EarthGov between Clark's bunch and the loyalists, quote unquote, is a vehicle by which the entire galaxy itself is changed as well, or at least a small corner of it. I mean, you think about it. Through that war, the Interstellar Alliance is born. And especially through war, the younger races are finally allowed to branch out and finally take their own road into the future without the interruption and interference of the Vorlons and the Shadows.
One thing about the Interstellar Alliance that I do like is they allow each race to be themselves. And it's basically the law will be, as long as you're not dicks to each other, you can be what you want within your own. It's what the European Union was supposed to be. Each constituent, you govern at the lowest possible level, so each part of the Interstellar Alliance can be the race they want to be, can be their own. And the Interstellar helps keep the peace, which is set up in this very episode by patrolling the borders to keep the sides apart. And that may help that you did mention that conflict is part of our nature. But also resistance builds muscles, so the threat of conflict will keep the races on their toes. But it doesn't mean that it has to end in conflict.
Yes. Well, there's, and I'll bring up Colin's comment here, because there is truth in it. The Shadows weren't wrong about conflict leading to advancement. It's just not the only way. That is very
Beautifully
true.
said.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and there's another franchise I'm very fond of. It's mainly a video game franchise, and that is, of course, the Halo franchise, and the animated anthology Halo Legends. There is the I think it's a 2-parter or 1-parter about the Forerunners, and it's all narrated by Cortana. And there's a very poignant line in that 2-parter towards the end of the second part where she says, "There will always be warriors, and there will always be war." But that's not necessarily an inherent thing, because if you even look at the Mambari conflict, this civil war that they are going through, it will force them to finally bring about change, and change for the better, and lasting change. And that is also very true. I mean, it can be destructive, it can be bloody, it is awful. It's something that we should never have ever wanted to do ever in our entire existence as human beings. But it is a truth, that it is a uncomfortable truth, that it is through conflict, through war, that we advance. And in some instances, we advance for the better, and in other instances, we advance for all the wrong reasons. I mean, okay, I hate to keep quoting other movies and shows here, but it seems poignant here. In The Fifth Element, Lilu says, "Humans are so strange. Everything you create is made to destroy." Not everything we've made is created to destroy, but by and large is an instrument of destruction. Whether it's by physical means, like in terms of a bullet or a bomb, or as Colin brings up here, and I will put this up here, and Colin, that is a very astute observation. War. What is it good for? Well, actually, medical advancement, technological advancement, e.g., nuclear power, unexpected spin-offs, super glue. But that doesn't fit the tune. Yeah, and Colin, I do get that riff. I do get that song reference very, very distinctly. What was it good for? Absolutely nothing. But in some instances, it is.
Hmm.
And Elysium, thank you. Yeah, those are some. Like I said, those are some of my favorite films.
It's good. It's good for nothing except
Well,
when
they're
it is
optimistic.
good for something.
What did Romans ever do for us, huh?
Well, I know that the title of this episode is Bargains, Rumors, and Lies, but if you think about it, what is a major part of conflict? Making bargains with others who might be your enemy but might share a common foe. Lies to deceive your opponent and even deceive others on your own within your own ranks. And rumors often can lead to war. And that is an awful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, sorry, something just struck me. The Drazi themselves have used conflict, which is supposed to be ritual conflict, to end conflicts. In the 5th season, we see how the Drazi used to live, narrow streets, because they were at constant war with themselves, possibly over clans, religion, whatever it was. But to end all that, they do the every 5 years, they pick two sides, a purple and a green, throw all the scarves in a barrel. They pick it out at random, and then they knock lumps out of each other for a couple of months. That ritual conflict ended religious conflict, racial conflict, and united the species. So there is a place in our nature for bringing us together, even if it is an aggression, a conflict that helps to build and grow the species. So
That's
there
true.
is. Now
Well,
it's played for laughs. Sorry.
No, Elysium, go ahead. You're fine. You're fine.
I think it's played for laughs at the time where it sounds stupid. Everything in a barrel doesn't make sense, but it brought that species together, and the Drazi are fully on board, even with having Susan as one of their leaders. Where it's rules caught up in committee.
Yeah, because I don't think. Well, obviously, we know that Valen, Jeffrey Sinclair, wouldn't know who the next Intel Za would be after Delenn and Sheridan. No one would know this. But in future history, she is remembered as Ivanova the Strong. And I can't wait to get to that episode because I love that particular segment of that episode. Because there's so much there. There's so much there. But, I think one of the great things that sci-fi, and me and Koji and Zadrai talked about this the other night on when we did that review of Akira. One of the great things that sci-fi does is it gives the opportunity for commentary on the human condition. And what B5, regardless if it's old school B5 or the reboot, has the potential to make us stop and take a step back and consider exactly where we have come from, where we are, and where we potentially could go if we are able to put aside all of these petty prejudices. And for me, it was when I was younger. Yes, I will freely admit, one of the things that attracted me to B5 was the space battles and the cool little quotes and all that sort of stuff. But now that I'm older and far wiser, it's the discussions like this that is what I love about Babylon 5. And it's episodes like these that give us the opportunity to have discussions about how conflict, which you wouldn't suspect would be where we would end up with this particular episode, but yet we did. How conflict is a mechanism for humanity and for life to evolve, to grow, and to change. Even though it is one of the most destructive and costly things that humanity has ever endeavored upon.
I think as long as people are aware that that is part of their nature, they can overcome and fight against it. It probably will be, even at the end of time, if humans are around to see it, it probably still will be part of our nature. But it doesn't mean we have to be ruled by it. And that very strength and conflict and drive can be what takes us beyond the stars. It doesn't have to end in our destruction.
Yeah. And I sometimes have to ask myself this question. What was it in our future in the Babylon 5 universe that finally made the majority of the world, or maybe all of the world, finally come together under one governing body? What was it? What was the catalyst? What was the change agent that finally made us realize we were stronger as one rather than being divided?
World War II.
Maybe.
I would believe that, yeah.
Maybe.
We just haven't caught up with the lesson,
Maybe.
I would like to share something about conflict that I learned from my Sifu, my Kung Fu teacher.
Absolutely.
A long time ago when I first started, I was like 13 years old. It was like the first month or something. We all were practicing meditation and breathing techniques outside around a tree, circled around it. When we finished, our teacher said, "Any questions you guys have? Anything?" And then I just said, I was like, "What's the point of martial arts in general?" He took a moment and he said, "It is the peaceful practice of conflict applied in a peaceful manner that doesn't hurt anyone, that betters our conditioning, our mind. So when things are conflict, we can make alternative, better, healthier choices that keep us safe and others with the strength to stand up against it." So, because the whole thing with war and conflict and what the shadows say, conflict inspires that, progression. Of course it does, because conflict provides a guaranteed sense of urgency to get things done. In peaceful times, we kind of have the luxury to not have that urgency to make certain decisions or do this and that. So the meaning behind what my Sifu said was that by practicing war techniques in a peaceful, healthier manner, you understand it more. Therefore, you can apply it without hatred, without malice, without prejudice, and probably find peace, because the whole lesson of conflict is what should be practiced in understanding it so that we don't repeat it. And that's the whole point of, and then just like you said, that sci-fi is a good example of checking out the human condition. That's a perfect example of what martial arts is about, because you spend time understand the human condition through conflict. And same with sports. We have these peaceful outlets of conflict that are constructive and actually bring people together. So there are ways, we just kind of take them for granted, and it's easier to see a thunderstorm or a war or an accident or someone's attacking you. That's a sense of urgency. It's very clear what needs to be done. It's just when you don't have that threatening urgency, you have to find that urgency to get stuff done in a peaceful manner. Because then even when Delenn was talking to the Mambari that we're not going to surrender, I want to read it here. The Mambari guy says, "What? We're not going to surrender? where she says, "No, don't be foolish. If either side surrenders to the other side, there will be chaos. Our entire culture will fall apart. There are other ways, more reasonable ways. But the extremists among us never see that." And I like that she says that, because a lot of extremists I notice in any type of faction that they like to repeat tactics that work in the past based off of stigmas. And to me, that's very fearful. So I like what Delenn is going, that there are alternative ways, because progression and building, you have to go beyond what has done before, and doing what's done before is kind of like stepping stones to repeating mistakes of the past. So this is really deep stuff about conflict. I think it's just people need to understand it or visit it more in peaceful manners.
I agree. And thank you for the insight, Coach. It was very enlightening. And I do want to send a shout.
Okay.
I do want to send a shout to the chat, Brightest Day and Crash Exile. Crash, I know you were in here earlier, and Brightest Day, thank you both for tuning in. So, is there any final thoughts that you guys want to bring before we start wrapping up for the afternoon?
Great show.
All right, Zon, quit being a smart aleck.
No, seriously, very good. And honestly, what Koj just said was indeed very enlightening. So I just wanted to say that. Great show.
Yeah, I thank my Sifu for that.
Yeah, and thank your Sifu as well, because I can't think of a more articulate way to describe why we prepare to fight in the hopes that we never have to.
Ooh, I like how you said that.
Yeah. And I think being prepared for combat often means that you don't. You're aware of what you can do, your capabilities, and you don't resort to something that will get out of your control really quickly.
That's true. That's very true. So, anyway, well, guys and gals, I think we're going to go and close out for this afternoon, but I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Glad to be back on our normal day, or at our, normal time. And, of course, we will be back next week with another installment, and we'll continue our review of Season 4 of Babylon 5. I do want to let you all know that I'm going to be going live tomorrow night at 7:30 with another Ambassador's Reviews. I'll be giving you all my thoughts on Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and of course the last 2 episodes of Marvel's What If. So make sure you hit the reminder on those 2 videos. And I will be going live this Sunday afternoon at 1:30 Central with Afternoons with the Ambassador. I'm going to be doing a discussion that I think is rather timely for this time of year, and going to be talking about the Universal Monsters, and to kind of kick off my October Halloween festivities here on the Ambassador Wing. So, gentlemen, before we go, do you all have anything you want to plug for your channels, and tell everybody where they can find you? I know Elysium put the links in the chat, but if you got anything you want to plug, the floor is yours.
Well, I have some more. If you want, check out my channel, because I have more video game episodes and some more of my Snyder Cut Fighters coming on the way. Just building, trying to do some new creative stuff. Same old stuff, but new spin and more energy. So that's all that's lined up for my stuff. Oh, and also Il Divino Vega might be dropping a song that for the music video I helped collab on. So keep your eyes out for that.
Okay.
Awesome. I got some great stuff coming up on my late night Q&A with Zodwriter show. I have a lot of interesting guests coming up. You guys might want to tune in for that if you like those types of late night talk show type things. And yeah, man, great stuff.
Congratulations on the 1,000 subs.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yes, indeed. Zodwriter is the first amongst the council to hit 1,000. So to you again,
rejoicing.
Yay!
Yay!
And I will answer Archer's comment before we close. I would have to say, honestly, Colin, both, but I do have a greater love for the Universal monsters because that's what I grew up with, but I did grow up with the Hammer monsters as well. So, well, anyways, folks, thank you all for being here this afternoon. We will see you all next week. And until next week, this is the Council of One saying, and let's try and get this right. In 3, 2, 1. Zooty, zoot, zoot, zoot.
Ooh, that felt nice.
We did it.
Ah.